Okay, we're back after a couple months break, or 3 months break with Grandma for games with Grandma, although we'll forego the games tonight. Um, Grandma is a little tired, but hopefully we can glean, is it glean or glean? Glean some more information from her about her childhood. And then we'll just dive in, okay?
Okay.
Any family vacations or trips as a kid with your family? And if so, where to? What'd you guys do?
We never took any trips when I was a kid, except I remember going up to a place in the Black Hills that I remember there was a bottomless lake there, and I don't remember where it was, but I remember going up there and have a picnic in that canyon. And then we went up to the Mount Rushmore and a couple other places a couple times. And as a family, we went and watched the stratosphere balloon go up when I was about 11. And we sat on the side of the hill, and there was a big basin there where they started this balloon. And it was a hot air balloon, and it went higher than most of them ever did before. And it ended up in Minnesota somewhere.
Really? So it's a big thing, like a lot of
it's
publicity.
stratosphere balloon, they called it. And it's in the museum down in Washington.
The Smithsonian, Aeronautical,
yeah.
or whatever it's called.
I remember seeing it there.
Aerospace.
It was exciting to see.
Huh? And you were there. That was around 1935, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. And then where was this bottomless lake? It was in that same area, the Black Hills area?
It's in the Black Hills area, but I'm not sure which canyon it was in.
Was it really bottomless, or was that just kind of like a local legend, or
Well, it's supposed to be bottomless. They'd never found the bottom of it.
had anyone looked?
Huh?
Had anyone looked? I'm just joking.
Yeah, I think they had.
Very good. And then tell us about, sorry if this is jumping around, but I had skipped over some of these questions before, so they might not be necessarily in any type of order. But tell us a story that you remember, if you can, and we might need to come back to this as you think about it. A story that your mother or father told you when you were a child. What was the story that they would tell you? You can interpret that however you want, like real stories from your family or a fairy tale or whatever.
You know, I don't remember really stories.
How about Grandpa Tillery? Or Grandma Tillery?
Well,
Grandma
I
Lady.
can remember things that I found out later about my grandmother and grandfather. They did not get along.
But they didn't necessarily tell you that as a child. That wasn't a story they told you as a child. It's just things
Yeah.
that you learned later
I
on in
learned
life.
it later on.
Okay. Well, if you think of any stories that maybe you want to pass along, that'd be great. And then we can come back to that if you think of anything. Tell us about how you were disciplined as a child.
Well, all they had to do with me was look at me angry, and I'd go hide behind the door.
Because you were the good kid.
I was a good kid.
Yeah.
I was a good kid, and if they just scolded me a little bit, they never had to lay a hand on me.
So let's change that question and ask, how did your parents scold Irma? Discipline Irma. Was it Irma that was the rebel?
Yeah.
So how did they discipline Irma? Like, what was the discipline style in your household?
Well, we didn't have much discipline problems, but my brothers would get into a quarrel once in a while. I remember my brother Bob lifting Vernon up off the floor and pushing him out, throwing him out the front door because he was picking on Lyle one time.
So he was defending his little brother.
Yeah. But and Irma, she would do things that she wasn't supposed to, like when we were in later grades in high school, she would go home with somebody without asking the folks, and go home with them on their bus and stay overnight or something. And several times Dad had to go pick her up and bring her back home. And let her know that wasn't the way to do.
Yeah.
So,
So, going back to your brother throwing the other brother out the door, or was that punished, or was it kind of respected that he was defending his little brother?
I don't remember any other reactions. I just remember
You just
seeing
remember
him
that?
do that.
That would be memorable. Okay.
Because Vernon was a lot taller too.
Yeah, Vernon was tall. Bob was stockier though.
And so your siblings, I know we've gone over this before, but you had 2 sisters and 3 brothers.
Right.
And where did you fall in line? Order?
Next to the last.
Okay. So can you tell us their names again and go in order?
Yeah, my older brother's name was Vernon Harland. And my sister's name was Cora Ida. She was named after both grandmothers. And then my brother Elwood Dale was his name. And somehow my grandmother started calling him Robert Dale.
Hmm.
And I think that's where he got his nickname Bob. But it was my grandmother that always insisted that his name was Robert. His name was Elwood.
Elwood, okay.
And then Lyle Walter, he was named after his dad. And me, and then Irma Arlene. And Vernon was born in 1916, and Irma was born in 1927, so there was that much difference between us.
Wow.
And Mom had 2 babies, beside one in between Bob and Lyle, and one younger than Irma.
Okay.
So,
And they didn't make it?
no, they didn't make it. And the first one was born in 1921. And I don't know if he died right then or if he died later, but he was buried on the ranch that they were buying.
Hmm.
They thought they were going to buy, but they didn't. But they buried him under an apple tree out in the yard.
Is that apple tree still there?
I guess he's still there. I don't know for sure exactly where it is.
Was that pretty common for those days? I mean, I know obviously the medical advances weren't there that they are today, but I mean, that was probably a fairly common hardship.
You know, I don't know if it was common for them to bury people like that or not. The other little brother was buried in the Vale Cemetery.
How old were they when were they born, stillborn, or did they
Well,
die afterwards? Or?
That one was 3 days old.
Okay.
And I remember my sister was holding him when he died,
Mm-hmm.
and she always remembered that.
And so was that common to have babies? I mean, not common like the majority of the time, but it was more common, I assume.
They lost a lot more babies in those days,
Yeah.
just like people died earlier.
Right. Interesting. Sad, but I guess it's part of time. Okay, maybe something more different for us. You grew up among the Sioux. Did you have any interactions with the Sioux, or what was it like?
I never knew there was any Indians around until after I was married and gone.
Oh, did you have any friends named Sue by chance?
Yes, I did.
How was she?
She was a wonderful friend.
Awesome, very good. She didn't spell her name Sioux by chance, did
No,
she?
she
Okay.
didn't.
So you didn't have any interactions with the Sioux Indians? They
No,
pretty much.
but after I was married, I went home, and while we were there one day, we had this big house, and it had 5 bedrooms upstairs, and this Sioux man and his wife came, and Dad let them stay overnight. And we were really surprised when this Indian couple came down from upstairs
You
for
didn't know they were
breakfast.
there.
Back to the story, back about the stories, did you ever hear your parents or grandparents tell stories about the Indians being around?
The question is, just in case you can't hear my mom's question, Were there any stories passed on from your parents that had to do with growing up among the Indians or settling the
I
area?
have a necklace that my grandmother got. They had some Indians coming. They lived in Missouri, I believe, at the time, because she was still a girl. And she and her girlfriend were playing, and this Indian came by, and they were friendly with them, and they gave her a necklace, beaded necklace, and I have that.
You have the beaded necklace.
Mhm.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you have a favorite book that you remember as a youth that you read, or maybe a book that was popular to read at the time?
I like the Nancy Drew stories, and I remember one Christmas my sister and I got together the Joan of Arc story,
Oh, really?
and we read that a lot. It was a children's version,
Yeah.
but it was a big book and was the best book I'd ever had. But we read a lot of little big books. They were a nice gift to give people.
I remember, didn't we even get Little Big Books when I was a kid? I mean, that sounds like a familiar
Little golden books.
Little Golden Books, right? They had the golden spine. That's right. Probably based off of the same
Well, there-
concept,
She
possibly.
has some little big books in the other room.
Oh, I've seen them.
Yeah,
I
your
saw
that. Yeah.
mom gave them to us,
Yeah,
to me.
yeah, I've seen those. Okay.
They're small but thick.
They're thick and they're about 4 inches square, or 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I don't think they're 5.
I don't think they're
about
5. They're
4.5
smaller.
inches.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but they only cost a nickel when we were kids. So
Sure.
we got them for Christmas presents from our friends.
Nice. Did you like to read?
I always liked to read.
I know you like to read now.
When we'd start cleaning house, I'd clean out the magazine rack and get involved in reading, and I
Never get clean.
had to have my mother say, "You better get your cleaning done instead of reading."
Maybe that's where Leah gets it.
Yeah.
Getting distracted while she's cleaning. What was your favorite course in high school, in junior high?
I liked science, and I liked math.
Okay. Did you have any extracurricular activities that you were involved with?
We didn't have extracurricular things in our school. We had reading and writing and arithmetic.
Pretty
Basketball.
generic.
And we didn't have a big enough school to have a football team, so I don't know anything about football because I didn't grow up with it. But we had always had a winning basketball team. And our superintendent was especially interested in basketball, and if the girls wanted to play basketball, we could, if the guys were not using the gym.
So that were priority.
Yeah, and then we played softball a lot
Yeah.
during recesses. and noon hours.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll teach you everything you need to know about football right now. USC Trojans are the greatest football team that ever lived. So, just
That's what I understand.
okay. How old were you when you started driving?
Well, on a farm, you get to drive little different machines around, but driving a car, I think I was about 16 when we went to town one day and Mom was going to let me drive, and I remember we angle parked in front of the grocery store, and I was backing out, and Mom said, turn the wheel, and I turned it and ran into the car next to me. She didn't tell me which way to turn it. I just got excited and turned it, and it hit the car next door. But then we didn't have to worry about driver's license then in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And so I remembered going down to my neighbors one time and thinking I'd drive down and see them, and I turned too fast and ended up in the ditch. And I didn't ever drive very much at home.
How old were you when you got your first car?
Oh, I got the first car I ever had. I was running the restaurant,
So married and
married and children, and all
Wow.
my children already. But that was my first car of my own.
that was in Southern California or in?
It was in Southern California, about 1970.
And what was your first car?
A Mercury.
Mercury.
It was 1960 we were discussing the other day. It
Huh?
was like that 1959 Mercury.
That wasn't my car.
But your first car was 1970, and it was a Mercury.
I actually think it was 1973 Mercury Montego.
What color?
Blue, of course.
That's right. How was your car? I just remember Grandpa's car was that nice poop brown. That's what I always remember about his car. That brown car.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a crazy color. And then we ended up getting a brown car as well. Kate, how old were you when you went on your first date?
Probably 16.
16? And then do you
I
remember who it was
going
with?
to a dance one night, and a bunch of guys from the neighboring town took my girlfriend and I home.
To your home,
Yeah,
to be clear for those youth listening.
yes, to my home. But it wasn't a date because it was,
Right.
you know.
You met at the dance. And
But then I started going with this one man, and he was a man. He was 24 years old and I was 16.
wow.
But I never had anybody treat me any better, you know.
All right.
So
And what was his name? Do you remember his name?
yeah, Fred Shaneman.
Fred Shaneman. Oh.
Green
My-
ink.
My girlfriend was his sister. He had two sisters that I ran around with, and he had a brother too that we double dated
Right.
quite often. Two brothers. One of them we double dated with my girlfriend and I.
And in this time you were still in the same area,
Yeah.
in the Black Hills area.
You know, it was It was around Vail, which is about 20 miles north of Sturgis.
Okay.
Tell about green ink.
Leslie wants me to tell about green ink.
Okay. What's
Like-
green ink mean?
Well, Fred came, after he got out of the service, he came to see me in Denver and tried to talk me into marrying him. And of course, I was already enraptured with your grandpa,
Okay.
and I wasn't interested in marrying him. But the day we got married, I came home and had some mail. And it was a letter, and it was addressed in green ink. And your grandpa was always kind of jealous of that. He just couldn't imagine anybody writing with green ink.
Was that too informal for Grandpa, or?
I guess it's
Too
just
prissy.
different.
Oh, just too. Yeah. Okay.
He thought it was too girly.
Too girly.
I don't know what he thought.
He
That's
just-
what he thought. Believe me.
He was just jealous.
He was jealous, right?
But it was a letter written in green ink trying to get me to marry him.
That's funny.
And that was the day we were getting married.
I can remember Grandpa saying, green ink? Who would ever write a letter in green ink?
That's funny. Okay, let's see here. What was your first job, and how much were you paid?
My first job was taking care of a couple of children. Mom went to the beauty shop in Sturgis, and when she came home, she said, I got a job for you if you want it. And so I took it. It was a job taking care of a little 3-year-old and a little 5-month-old girl. The little 3-year-old was a red-headed boy. And they were nice kids, but I can remember so many things. One of the main things I remember about that job was learning how to clean a toilet.
Mm.
Because we never had a toilet at home, you know,
Right.
we had the outside privy. But she showed me how to clean the toilet, and I always remembered that.
Huh.
But,
That's the first experience.
and I got $4.50 a week.
A week. And how many hours?
And I got Sunday off.
So you worked 6 days a week
Uh-huh.
and full days? Like,
Yeah, I stayed there, I lived there.
oh, you live there. Oh, okay. And you got $4.50 a week.
Yeah, and then I got a raise, so I got $5 before I went back to school.
Wow. And how old were you when you got that job?
16, I think,
16.
15.
Wow. That's awesome. What were your favorite and least favorite clothing trends of your youth?
Well, one of my favorites was when we got to start wearing slacks, because we had to wear dresses to school. And even if we had snow pants, we could wear them to school, but we had to take them off and wear our dresses during school.
Huh.
And so it was really exciting to me when they let us start wearing slacks. And I remember my mother made my first slack suit. It was a green suit, and she made the pants and a jacket to match.
And about when was that? Do you recall?
Oh, I think I was about a sophomore.
Sophomore in high school.
But
Wow.
before that, we had to wear cotton stockings with garters on them, you know, rolled garters at the top to hold them up. And I didn't like those. We never did wear the pantaloons that people think about. Well, I did when I was a little girl,
Right.
not bigger. And
So the pants were your favorite trend. What about the least favorite?
well, the least favorite was those stockings. I think that was the worst thing.
They were heavy.
They were heavy and ugly, and
Yeah.
but we used to wear our snow pants to school and take them off, and then have to put them on when we went home. And it was cold in our schoolhouse. A lot of times we all gathered around the radiators. We had big radiators along the wall. We gathered around there to have our classes.
Huh.
So.
Okay.
But my high school was the first four-year high school in South Dakota.
The first one in the entire state. Wow. Because before that it was K through 12. It wasn't
Yeah.
a high school per se. It was just one school for everybody.
No, it was the first four-year high school. Before that, they didn't have the junior and senior years.
Oh. Oh, okay. So you went to high school until you were like 16 roughly. Okay. Wow.
My mother was teaching by the time she was 17.
Wow. She was teaching by the time she was 17 years old? Wow. So
In a
she was the
country-
same age as most of us would be as seniors in high school, but she was now teaching kids younger than her.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. We have just a couple more minutes here, so tell us when it was that you got electricity in your home and what it was like.
Oh, when my folks bought that house, it was in 1942. And that was the first time we ever had electricity in a home.
So you were about 18 roughly
Yeah,
at that time, okay?
I was about 18. And it was wonderful to have electricity. We didn't have running water either, or a telephone
But you had electricity.
at that time.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but I used to go over to my friend's house, and they had electricity, and they had running water. So we had, when we were like in third and fourth grade, I would stay overnight with her, and we'd put 3 inches of water in the bottom of the bathtub and just have a ball.
Just because you could.
It
That's funny.
was really exciting for
So
me.
did you do homework to a lantern or?
Hmm?
Did you do homework with a lantern, to the light of a lantern?
Oh,
or-
yeah. Yeah, we used kerosene lamps, and we had gas lamps with a wick on them.
Mhm.
You know how
Mhm.
those work. And so we had to always wash all the chimneys and keep them clean, and trim the wicks right so that they would flame right.
Yeah.
And